Hey everybody, my name is Jay, and we're talking about Zas today. If you haven't watched my video titled I Got Every Character in Soul Calibur 6 to S rank, and this is how I did it yet, please do so, as I'll be going through this character in the same format that I discussed topics in that video, and I'd rather not make the same disclaimers in each video. Zas had some fun set play things about him, but I'll admit this character was not a character I enjoyed personally all that much. His pokes are very long, but often you're put into a spot of either being too slow, things like 6BB, or too stubby, with things like 3K. He has a constant will he or won't he feel to his gameplay that I'll get into later that will be quite satisfying to you if you like that kind of style. Not to mention he hits like a 50-ton truck if you set things up correctly. You don't really even need the huge amount of curses in order to get the big damage either. So if you like that kind of thing, then maybe Zas is a character you should give a try. So when it comes to block punishment, you don't have a -10. -12, you've got 6K, or you've got AA. 14, you've either got 3K, D-Slide K, maybe AA again if you just want to make it easy for yourself. -16, 3AB half hold, or 4-6B with a curse. -18, I basically just do the exact same thing again. When it comes to Zas's block punishment, it's not bad at all. You don't have a -10, but -12 is pretty solid. 6K is the obvious choice, but if can be too stubby, which is frustrating when you're starting out. Trying to figure out the difference between the ranges where you want to use AA and 3K, or 6K, that's really going to be the hardest thing with regards to his block punishment when you're starting out. With -14, 3K is obviously the optimal. It's just the exact same thing as 6K. But sometimes I tended to go with AA just for the simplicity when I'm learning a character. -16 are where things really get going, so you've got like your 3AB half hold in order for the B to still combo, if we're talking generally. But obviously the main thing you want to do is 4-6B, when you've either got like a ring edge, or more notably, when you have a curse. -18, I tended to stay with -16 things again, just to make sure I was focusing on getting the damage rather than focusing on a lot of moves to start out when I'm learning the character. Now, when it comes to while rising moves, it's all about full crouch 3K with this guy. This move has almost everything you're looking for in a cheesy poke to frustrate people who are waiting for your GI or a whiff punish, or taking a little too slow to take their turn. It's a high, that can be a problem, but it's still fast, it combos into a curse, it's horizontal. You can use this anytime you want to cheat your turn back after something that's -6 or 8. When you're looking for a punish on ducked highs or grabs, while rising KB was always my go-to, and it gets the job done. When you have a curse, and you have the reactions for it, you want to be doing 4-6B. People often forget that these kinds of moves are viable when you're ducking, because 4-6 moves don't actually get affected by the fact that you're ducking, and if you have a curse, the amount of damage that you're getting on a 4-6B is pretty massive. So when it comes to Oki, honestly, Oki is not the most obvious or straightforward thing with Zas. There are situations with 6BB that can be a force block, which is an amazing checkmate if you have the opponent in red guard gauge already. Guard gauge becomes a pretty big deal for Zas. But often you want something that's a little more substantive than just like a 2-hit -8 mid. A little more substantive and mix-uppy when the opponent is waking up. He does so much damage on his launchers that he tends to just kind of back off after getting a really big hit. So do your best to not just simply force another engagement after a big combo, just because you want to play as sticky as other characters can be, like your Amy's and your X's. 6-6B can tend to be your best option on generalized wake-ups to beat mashing, but it's not as universal as some other options that other characters have. You could also go for like 6-6 AA, but that is unsafe. Yeah. Zas grabs, overall, I found to just be kind of okay. You certainly get a lot of opportunities to go for grabs if you want, since so much of Zas's gameplay is about controlling movement, and you have a ton of mids to punishing people as hard as possible for ducking said grabs. However, I personally found it was better use of my time and advantage to just continue with pressure. Now, the forward grab is generally the one you want to get, as it gives great Oki, and the back grab is specifically for flipping stage positioning or reverse ringouts. Since the grabs do radically different things, you can kind of flip the script, so to speak, and always go for the grab that does like quote-unquote less, to make it harder to break. As in, you go for the back grab when you're in neutral, kind of like you would be in a situation here, and you go for the forward grab when the back grab is going to ring out. Now this only works if the opponent knows which grab is the scarier one already, so you have to take the opponent's comfort level in the matchup into account. Now, for simple combos and pokes, right off the bat, getting curses into 4-6B is the start and end of the entire name of the game with Zas. This is how he gets big damage, this is how he gets people to respect his pokes, this is how he uses the tech crouch properties to deal with faster characters, mashing highs in order to keep him from using his slower moves. With one curse, you get 6/6A plus B. Now with 2 curses, you get 2A plus B, 4 for B hold. I didn't do it right. There's specific combos for things like tech traps and dead traps, things to do with 3 curses, all kinds of other moves that also you can use curses to transition into using your ramp mechanic that I'm not going to get into here. When you're first starting out, I think it's best to stick with 4-6B since it's the most important, and really the only other time to use curses or worry about curses is for when you have 2 curses and you use your unseeable low 1B to go into your 4-6B. Other combos are relatively straightforward and frankly not as important. 3B into B slide K, 4-6B. I would strongly advise finding something other than 3B, since Zas's 3B isn't really all that great. You also get basically the same combo off of 6-6B counter it. And this is a much better way of getting a launcher since the hitbox is better, it'll track pretty often, it's also safer. Most of the big damage you're going to get through is space control and decent damage on mid-range pokes. Now, when it comes to mid-range pokes, you really can't lose with this character. Main strings to focus on here are the 3A series. You got 3AK for safe pressure, RE safe pressure, 3AB for damage on a whip punish or a counter hit, 3AB hold to make it safe, and then also the 6A series. You got 6AB, 6AA. Most people don't handle these strings appropriately, so the fact that there is counterplay to them isn't really going to mean a whole much until you start facing tough and experienced opponents. 6A on its own, when the opponent is aware there's a string in here, can be really strong for like mental frame advantage as well. 6BB for the long whip punishment and to get the lethal hit. Really have to space this out correctly. BK, 4B just frame, K, BB. Now, don't fall into the same issue I did when I was playing this character, which is trying to poke people at close range with stuff like this, which are not really the fastest moves in the world. You're effectively trying to counter-hit hunt with an I-16, and against some characters, that's really not the best way to go about it, and certainly not the best way to go about it when you're up so close against your opponent. It took me a while to realize you need to do stuff like AA, your full crouch 3K, like what I was mentioning before, and most importantly, A6. I think A6 is underrated and should be used more often. You've also got stuff for farther range, like 4A. You've got the 2 and 4 B plus K, which are great. Guard damage becomes a very big thing for Zasalamel, as I mentioned before, so you've got 4A plus B when you really have somebody just locked in place statue blocking. You've got 6-6A hold to stop people from longer range from sidestepping. This is what you play Zas for. This is really his wheelhouse. 1A and 1B are kind of his best bets for lows. It's not exactly stellar options unless you have curses for the 1B, but sometimes even if it's a mediocre option, it's the option that you should go for. The entire game plan is built around whether you're going to press a huge option or not. So 90% of the time you're using these mid-range pokes to control people's movements and buttons for a fear of a GI, a 4-6B when you have a curse, or more importantly the CE. This is where things like A6 and full crouch 3K can come in a lot, or just simply 2As. to recycle your frames over and over again and give yourself opportunities to catch your opponent's sidestep quickly. The whole idea is to get the opponent to respect your big damage options a lot. If you want to try and thread the needle of when your opponent is going to say they've had enough and start mashing, then this character will be incredibly rewarding. It's just all about finding when it's finally time to just kind of go for it. So yeah, let me know if anybody decides to start off with Zas and use some of these options. Don't forget to do all the YouTube things like and subscribe. I'll continue on with this character series, and I'll see you guys for the next one, yeah? Thanks very much.